Everybody. My name is Samir Kamani. I am a industry vice chair supporting the DevOps working group at the Advanced Technology and Academic Research Center, or ATARC as we know it. Today's demonstration is actually part 2 of the DevSecOps working group's work products that can be used by all the industry as well as government agencies to get started with DevOps. So where we want to begin with today is part 2. There is another video that was recorded previously, which describes the basic guiding principles and has a demonstration of a Java application. Today's part 2, will talk about architecture principles of deploying the said application into a AWS environment using Terraform scripts. So it's really rather simple from a DevOps perspective. It's more of a GitOps architecture, and this is just the way we have broken it down to meet the specific guidelines around what we wanted to deliver for this work product. So just to recap real quick, the DevSecOps patterns that we were looking at initially, at least in part 1 of this video, was source code and pulling them, building it, doing code coverage, quality, and security scans. And then today we'll talk about pulling from artifact repository, deploying. We have not yet covered the smoke testing and monitoring pieces, but that may be the next future iteration that we might go to. So with that, the architecture that we have defined in part 1, we talked about building, testing, and creating the Java code package. Today's video, I will be covering these portions where we have Terraform scripts, we init the script, we verify it, we apply it. Once the AWS environment is built, we actually take the package out of the Java repository and deploy it into the AWS environment. Smoke test will essentially be a very manual test for the example that we have. Monitoring is not going to be covered in today's video, but I just want you to be aware that that's something that we might be looking at in the future. This is a first iteration. We want to reduce the cognitive load and complexity. What we have here is the ATARC repository that consists of a bunch of different projects. What you will be able to see in a public view is the Cicd public project, the IAC Terraform project, and the Java sample app project. Orion is a different group's project. It is not related to this particular effort, but it is an open source repository that is available. In video 1, we talked about the Java sample app. Today, we will be covering the infrastructure as code, Terraform. The way we have broken it down is essentially we have all the Terraform pieces right up front on the root of the repository. That we've created a initialization shell file, which actually goes and gets snapshot of the package that was created in video 1 of this presentation and actually deploys it out to the AWS environment. In the EC2 TF file, we've got the specific description of which AMI to pick. In this case, we're just picking an Amazon AMI. Then we actually created an instance, basically a web instance, where we're actually, essentially all the stuff gets put into this instance, and then this script gets executed. And then down below, we have other aspects of it. You're free to review all these different things that are there that we've put in there. We have added a whole bunch of modules that are very, very helpful. The way this operates is with the GitLab CI YAML file, where it's a very, very simple construct. We include the Terraform base include file. We have some secrets that we insert into it. We do a validate, a build, and a deploy. And essentially that creates our deployment. Now, in this case, I'm actually injecting the deploy token into the shell file so that the deploy token is available for the app to be able to download and install in the S3 environment, in the AWS environment, EC2 environment, and execute. We could have also done this as a container, because in that other project that comes off of the part 1 of the series, there is actually a container that is built. Specifically to keep this very simple and more applicable to the way things are things were traditionally done. We've kept it so that it's a jar file that is being deployed and the jar is being executed. It happens to be a Spring Boot application, but the principle is sound in that. If you want to, you could actually take the container, deploy the container into a Docker environment and run it using ECS or ECR. You could also use Kubernetes environments to actually deploy into Kubernetes and make this application run there as well. We have not yet iterated into that. This is just the first iteration where we are doing a simple deployment into an EC2 environment. Looking at the CI/CD pipeline, essentially when we run the pipeline, which can run every time we commit something or we actually physically run the pipeline. In this case, I actually increased the version of the application to be deployed because it was a new deployment that was created in the other repository, and we needed to make sure that this matched to it. What we did was basically once we committed that code, it validated, it created a build artifact for Terraform. So underneath here, it's actually executing Terraform commands. As you can see, it's pulling down the Terraform container from the registry. It's running some bunch of different commands around Terraform, and then building a plan right from here. Once this plan is built and it is then available to be deployed. And so that's a manual action. In my case, I had actually clicked the play button, which then executed the deploy action. And in this case, it's actually, as you can see in the log that's coming out here, the AWS environment was created. Eventually, the shell file was executed. And here's and essentially, basically, everything was built and constructed and made available in the AWS environment. And I will now pull up the URL for the AWS environment to show you the net result of what happened. Just to kind of validate, we've given a name of GitOps ATARC, which actually comes right from the repository where it was. So going back to the repository, we look at the EC2, exactly that is GitOps ATARC. So the environment did actually get created, GitOps ATARC. It is running, everything's looking good. And then if I go to the public URL and connect to it using the port 8080, I get a very simple message which says, welcome to ATARC. And that's all that the application is written to do. But here we go. Here we have an example of taking the package and actually deploying it, making it available on the AWS environment. So with that, the repository is available. All you have to do is simply go to gitlab.com/ATARC, and you will be able to see the two repositories that were discussed in part one of this video. One was the Java sample app repository, and the second was the infrastructure as code Terraform repository, which again, looking at the architecture of how we've arrived at that is very simply the Java code piece is the first portion of it. Terraform piece is what we saw today. It is being deployed, and smoke test was essentially validating that you're getting this message over here. Thank you for your time, and please let us know if you have any questions or concerns, and we can engage. Thank you.